Hey, Ron here. Today's going to be an advanced watercolor painting lesson. I'm going to show you how I painted this thing, and we're going to jump straight into the process. So we're going to look at this painting process from the lens of three main stages that compose pretty much any painting I work on. I don't really think about it as stages while I paint, but this is just what happens, what ends up happening. The first one is the initial lay-in, which we're going to look at right now. The next one you'll see is me establishing the main big shapes where things start to look realistic, and that's the stage where everything looks realistic from afar. But then the last stage is adding the details and highlights and all sorts of small little bits and pieces that make it a beautiful painting up close. So right now we're starting with the initial lay-in. What's beautiful about this stage, and you can see my top row there of these shelves of alcohol bottles, is that you can go at it in many different ways. And I think this is where a lot of artists really do things differently. Because you can pre-wet the paper and go very loose. You can go very tight. The main point for me at this stage is just putting the paint on paper. The technique doesn't matter as much to me. What matters to me is that I'm starting to see it myself. So I'm starting to map out and know where everything is. The sketch, the pencil lines are nice, but that's not really the thing that gives you that final impression of knowing where to put the big shapes of light and shadow. So you see me painting the bottle as we're starting here on the left, and I'm moving slowly to the right, and I'm just putting colors there. If I'm working fast enough, I get a nice smooth transition. If I'm not, I'm getting a hard edge, and as I mentioned, I don't really care about the technique as much. All I care about is putting the paints on paper. So let's look at this bottle, for example. I'm starting with this brown. I pre-mixed this brown orange and the green underneath so that I can jump straight from one to the other. So what you'll see me do now is painting the body of the bottle, and I'm going to use that green for it. It's mostly green. You can see there's a bit of reflected light here. The reason, by the way, this painting took so long is because every bottle was very demanding. There are a lot of details, and I'm going to talk a bit later about how I knew when to finish the painting. That's another important, I think, point that you'll enjoy. So you see me just putting down the paint and skipping the highlights, just leaving them paper white. And as I reach an edge of a shape, I'm starting to think about the shape next to it. And again, I might place the color one next to another so that they blend smoothly together. By the way, I look different because I'm standing up. I switched to just always standing up. I have a standing desk. It has, you can adjust the height, but yeah. Once I get to that edge where the label is, things go a little lighter, but also there's a bit of a warmer feel to it. So I'm jumping straight into the orange. I'm going to start using that to fill in some of the details. I'm also using it to bring out some of the reflected light on the place I already put paint in. Because again, this entire scene is filled with light being reflected. One bottle reflects light on the bottle next to it, and is getting light reflected from the bottle next to it. So now you see a bit of orange. I started by pre-wetting, and then I'm putting the orange to get a smooth transition because the bottle is round. And then I'm going to introduce the green, still getting a smooth transition. So when I do a good job at it, and when I'm really on it, and when things work well, I'll get a lot of smooth transitions. When I'm a little slower, things may get a little choppy. But here's what's important. This is only the first step. This is the lay-in. And it doesn't really matter because none of this will be fully visual or visible rather in the last stages. Once this is complete, half of these things are going to disappear. They're more like a road map for myself for the next stage. Could you start with final colors and values? You could. To me, especially because it's such a big piece, it would be a very different work process had I done it this way. And it is possible you could work just bottle by bottle. I felt like, let's establish some things here. And you'll notice that I'm not only establishing the bottles, I'm establishing the background. So I'm already taking a moment to almost blend them into the background. You'll see this in a second. Now I'm going to kick it into time-lapse a bit. This is still the first lay-in stage. I just don't want this to be a 4-hour-long video because trust me, it's a long process. Now, I didn't film the whole thing. I'm showing you parts of it that tell the full story. You'll see me doing the lane. You'll see me doing the large shapes of light and shadow. You'll see me doing the details. But look at this, the way the colors are established, the way the highlights are established. I'm just skipping them. And this is a nice one, by the way, because there's a nice combination of violet and orange, which are complementaries in a way. I like that one a lot. I'm just making my way. Left to right is most efficient because, It's just I'm right-handed, top to bottom, because then you don't smear what you've already painted. That's pretty much my go-to. It doesn't matter as much when you paint small, but with this big of a piece that, honestly, I'm not even sure what the dimensions are. Is it half a sheet or like a sheet? I don't know, something like that. It's a pretty big painting. You can tell by my palette. Now, when you do it this way, it does matter. It does matter where you start painting, just to save time. You don't have to wait for things to dry. You just continue on to a different section. Now, I paused here and moved back to real time because I want to show you this interesting, this is David Bowie, a famous photo of him. I had no idea. Someone told me, oh, that's David Bowie, right? And I went ahead, Googled it, and found this exact photo shoot. So it's funny. It's very iconic. So I want to show you just how straightforward it is simply putting the colors down. You have the frame, that's black, then you have the white matting, but the white matting gets warm light from the scene, so it goes a little warmer. Maybe it's not white, or maybe it's off-white. And then the main part where the picture is actually at is red. Just putting the colors. Now, again, because I'm fast, because I have the technique down, I get a relatively organized, kind of smooth but controlled edge for the frame, for the matting, and for the, you see it, right? It all kind of works because I have the speed, but even if you don't have the speed, it doesn't really matter. While this is an advanced painting process, it's not necessarily advanced because of the technique. It's more advanced because this painting itself is a serious endeavor, right? I knew it's going to be a very detailed, very demanding painting process. And you'll notice, and if you can take something, one thing of this video is this: you can aspire to make a higher quality and level of a painting and actually get it. It doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't have to be that your technical prowess or experience correlates to the quality of the result. Very often, with the same level of experience, you can produce this higher quality. So if you take anything from this video is that idea, maybe you can aspire to make something a little more ambitious. And with the same level of skill, what I find is when I do this, it actually improves my skills. Whenever I do go for it, for something that is a serious endeavor, I know it's going to be a challenge, I end up improving so much more. And guess what? After painting this size, painting a small piece is going to be really a walk in the park. Now, talking a bit about technique, let's actually do talk a bit about that. Here it's good, like I consider it good, the transitions, everything works, but it's actually quite sloppy at times. A lot of this process, I'm really getting some little cauliflowers and minor effects. They aren't noticeable in the grand scheme of things, but they are there. Now, oftentimes, one other thing that goes into this serious of an endeavor of a painting, I pause here just to show you, I love this, the brown and the blue, it looks really good together. One of the things that also is responsible to, it's not just a decision, I'm going to make a painting that's a serious endeavor. I think it's also the care you give it, again, regardless of your level of skill. It's almost like, and I'm going to talk a bit about worrying about connecting shapes, because that's a big one that's going to rise from this video, but it's almost you can put more care into a painting and have a much, much better result, again, with no added experience or skills, right? A bit about shapes and what you choose to merge and what you don't choose to merge. Generally speaking, the more you have soft edges, the more your shapes are merged, the more the focus of the viewer will glaze over it. So these bottles in the center, they aren't too demanding of our attention yet because they're all blended together. The bottles on the left, however, you see all these small highlights and it's a bit more fragmented. These may demand more attention. Now, I'm just referring to where we're at right now. Things are going to change. But notice how, for the background, the bottles in the section in the middle, I did blur with the background. For those on the left, I haven't. For those at the top, I have for most of them. People tend to obsess about merging stuff. And I felt this too at some point. I was like, I have to merge. If I can merge something, I will. Why? Because there isn't really a downside to it. You can make the distinction later on in later washes. The only problem with thinking this way is that it takes away your freedom because now it's a rule. You have to smoothen edges and you have to combine shapes. No, you don't have to do anything. That's the key part here. You don't have to do anything. You get to have freedom as an artist. In fact, that freedom is the exact thing that will produce these results that are a level above your normal skill that will soon become your normal skill, by the way. Now we're moving on to step number 2, or step B. I don't know how I'm going to title it, but now we're starting to establish the big shapes. Okay, so we started with, we're still in the lay-in technically, but I do consider this part already big shapes because this is a big shape. And that's how, by the way, I approach very threatening big shapes and big areas. Slowly, step by step. If I'm not sure, first I'll map out a color. Okay, it's orange. Let me put some orange on paper. Now I know this is where the orange is. Next wash, I can start pushing it to be darker and more vibrant. Now there's going to be a big time skip here forward in the process, but don't worry. I'm going to show you the big shapes. So you'll see in a couple of moments. It's going to just jump and it's going to look much more final, but it's not. Give it a moment. There's a lot more work to do. So check out the bottle I'm working on. So sometimes if it's a big threatening shape and I don't know how to approach it, yes, I'm going to map out just a light orange. Okay, this is an orange shape. Same here. I'm not going to put in all the details right now. I'm mapping out the shape, and you can see this bottle right to the left of the one with the 8 or infinity. I'm mapping out shapes. The idea is I want the process to work for me, not for anyone else. So I am the only person who knows what I need in order to take the next step. So in order to paint this, I'll have to first paint that. And that's how I approach it. You make your own rules, and that's, I think, a big part of graduating from a beginner status. It's true in the beginning, rules can be helpful just in tasting the water, right? You're going to paint based on a painting process you're watching on YouTube. You're just getting the commands of what to do. Do this, then do that, paint this, paint that. And of course, a lot of tutorials are very like, do it your way, try and, but for the most part, people kind of stick to what they're seeing in the tutorial. This is graduating from it, and it's a matter of deciding, do I want to paint something for myself, selfishly almost, that I don't know how it'll end up, but I know it's going to be my own painting, or do I want to continue painting from tutorials? And hopefully, if you're at that stage, maybe now you're thinking to yourself, okay, maybe I'll go for a serious endeavor that's my own, and it'll be your mistakes, and it'll be your learnings, and you will get much, much better. You will build your own feedback loop of how things happen. Meaning, you paint something and you find out it's too light, and then you do it again and again, and you're like, oh, I'm not going dark enough. Maybe you paint something and you're like, I ruined it, I have to lift, and you constantly have to lift back the paint and dab it, I'm going too dark. Maybe you keep getting cauliflowers. You start noticing that, oh, why am I getting cauliflowers? You ask these questions, you do these explorations, find your own answers and solutions. I think that's why some artists are just incredible, because they take their own time to get to their own insights. Whereas you can learn from others' insights, no doubt. The best insights are experienced. It's through experience, very visceral. It's not through someone else's teaching. You're going to touch the stove, it's going to be hot. You're going to learn, right? In a way. So now I just kicked it into time-lapse for a bit because I'm doing the same thing. I'm working the shapes. There's shadows here. I'm adding the shadows, right? There are details there on the label. I'm adding those all details. Some of these bottles will require more involved work, which I will show you in a couple of moments with the bottle to the right. But by the way, here we're adding the details. This is Suzy. I don't know what I wasn't even familiar. Is this a Suzy? I don't know what you call this drink, but all I know is I'm painting the letters. And there's sometimes no way around it. You just paint the letters. I'm definitely not that great at painting signs and letters and very small and accurate stuff. Not only in terms of like being able to do it, I just don't really necessarily care about putting in I like the overall impression to look good. That's what I usually care about. So I end up not putting too much effort into like the actual small patterns. And some people are more calligraphy oriented. I'm not one of them. To me, does it work well if I take a step or two back? And do I have enough details to feed the viewer? And if I do, I do. Now look at this bottle. More involved. I'm doing wet and wet. I'm filling up the entire area. I'm going to do some more subtle wet and wet with red to bring out some of the details. You might look at this and think to yourself, this is details. It's not. This is actually a part of the guts of the painting. This is the painting. This is not details. This is establishing the basics of the scene. Which means I was correct. Sorry. This is the heart of the painting process, okay? This is not details. Details will come later. And you know, technically it could be looked at as details, but yeah. So let me show you. Here is another proof that this isn't details. I needed more contrast. By the way, I now printed the reference photos, so that's what we'll use. At some point, I realized it's going to really help me see things more. So I had to just print it instead of on a screen. Look at the green cap there in the reflection. I had to wrap it in darker paint to make it pop more. And I'm going to smoothen out that edge too with just a damp brush. It's these things you learn to notice and slowly push the painting in the direction you see fit. I'm going to now switch to a nice, vibrant, juicy green. Got that green reflection there in the background. So this is the heart of the painting process. Is it dark enough? Good. Is it too dark? Let's change it. Is it the right color? Let's glaze with something that's more accurate. And you can, make no mistake, slowly push the color to be accurate. Yes, it's best if you get it right the first time. You won't always get it right the first time, and that's fine. Now we're at the stage of detail. Now this is the true detail work. And I'm going to show you some of it in detail, but I'm going to also kind of glaze over it. I'm really bad with the puns today. I'm going to glaze over some of it because it's not really, it's quite repetitive at the end of the day, but here's how I think. The way I think about it is going just area by area and asking myself, does this look good? Or can I do something to make it look better? And if I can do something to make it better, I will. So for example, there's a nice little vibrancy there on the text, on the label, whatever it is, it's reflecting the light. So I'm using a highlight to show that, right? And I'm scanning the bottles one by one. This does require some experience, maybe training your eye to see things. It's not just about accuracy. As I mentioned in my last video, I think painting is, by the way, sorry it took so long to get to another video. Painting is not just about accuracy. It's not about accuracy at all if you really think about it deeply. It's more about expressing yourself. Now, whether you express yourself in a way that is accurate to whatever inspired you or not, it's totally up to you. This is more about a feeling. Do I feel like this needs more details? Do I feel like I'm missing details here? So for example, I missed a bunch of highlights here that were really yellow. I wanted to show that. Here I missed a bunch of highlights that were just warm, just kind of a titanium white or buff titanium. I don't remember which one. The one that's a little pinkish. Then later you're going to see, here we go, just talked about it, cooler highlights, right? And I'm going, usually I'll go bottle by bottle and figure out, okay, missing something, this need me to add something. And this goes back to what I mentioned close to the start of this video. I know the painting is done when I have nothing more to give it. And sometimes a bystander will look at the painting and think to themselves, it's not done. Now, more often than not, a bystander hasn't seen the whole thing. They just see the final impression and they do think it's done even before the artist. But sometimes, you know, a bystander will say, yeah, but if you actually look at the small details, you're missing some stuff. To me, that doesn't really matter. Once the feeling of I have nothing more to give to this painting arrives, I just stop. And we're really close to that point. Just a couple more highlights here and there, just a couple more details. Now I do skip a lot. Obviously this process was probably at least 20 hours of painting. I'm not going to do a 20-hour long video, and I haven't filmed 20 hours. I filmed about 3 squeezed into these 20 minutes. So once I get that kind of message that the painting is done, here's the thing. Painting high quality, realistic, interesting, fascinating. Look at this highlight. I love this bit. Pressing the brush to make it look as though the light pours through that little wire, metal wire running across the shelves. Here's the thing. This is all about painting what you love, painting something you actually care about. Forget about what other people are painting. Forget about what sells. Forget about what looks cool. Forget even about what you think will be easy to. It's far more effective to find the thing that inspires you, that compels you to paint it. Something that, you know, if you now have a free day or a free month, you take time off your work or whatever you do, you would have done it anyway. That's, to me, a nice little, and here's the painting. Here's Ruth in a second. You'll see her too. That's to me the #1 indication of something that's meant to be painted. You have to understand this isn't like a very technical process of me, going over my references and analyzing them. Not at all. It's a matter of feeling. I look at my folder, ooh, this really calls me to paint it, I paint it. More often than not, you find out you were wrong, and it wasn't the right thing for you to paint. The impression doesn't work, it doesn't inspire you enough, you don't have a good read on what makes something beautiful, you just move on to the next one. Every so often, it will work really, really well, and things will connect, and you'd be shocked at how good your painting looks. If you want to learn how to paint watercolors, go more advanced, right? Check out my courses. There's the frustration-free watercolor course. If you've already gone through that, there's the watercolor realism course. I'm going to put a link down below. For those who took both courses, by the way, if you have, I am offering something new. I'm offering personal critiques. So basically, you send me a couple of your paintings, and I make a personal video reviewing them and telling you what I think works, what doesn't work, what could be improved, just shave years off your learning curve and benefit from my own insights. So I hope you'll give it a try if you purchase both courses. It's currently open just for those who have, but hit me up. Send me an email if you're interested. Thank you so much. Sorry that it took a while for another video to be out. Came back from New York. I scheduled just, for up to the last moment, like a week, and then it's been another week of just settling in and doing some stuff. So thank you so much. We'll see you in the next vid. Take care.